our main event of the show, and that would be Resident Evil, the show. We have seen it, mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly. This is an 8-episode Netflix show that actually premieres. I believe you told me it premieres tomorrow, right? So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep, tomorrow.
8-episode Netflix live action show that premieres tomorrow, and it stars Ella Balance. I'm gonna butcher these and terrible names. Ella Balanska, Lance Reddick, love him. Sienna Agudong, sorry, Turlo man, I'm just not going to say these people's names because I can't pronounce any of them. I'm sorry, I'm stupid. I do want to put out there, I want to preface this with a couple of things. First of all, we have only seen the first 5 episodes. There are 8 in total. We're going to talk about those 5 today. I think we got a pretty good feel for the show after 5 episodes. We've seen far more than half of it. We're not going to be spoiler free, if you will, but don't worry, because there's not a whole lot to spoil up through the 5th episode at least. There's nothing that I was just like, oh my god. So just know that going in, if you haven't seen the show and you are looking forward to seeing it, I don't think we're going to ruin it as far as like what we give out, because there's just not a lot to spoil what we've seen so far. But anyway, Resident Evil, the Netflix show. Prior to seeing the show, how did you feel? What were you going into this thing with? How were you feeling?
I'm a huge fan of the video games. Resident Evil 7 and 8 are some of the best of RE franchise right now. Some of the movies are good, some of the movies are bad. I like the first 2 movies, as I said in the chat. The idea of the show, I really didn't know much about. I was excited. I liked the trailer. I thought it would be fun. And then we watched the show. I was looking forward to this show. I thought the trailers looked good. Everybody warned me that they didn't look good, but I was like, yes, Netflix is going to deliver. And we'll go from there.
Well, me going into it, I as well am a huge Resident Evil fan. I have been since 90 whatever it came out. When it came out on the original PlayStation, I've loved part 1. I loved part 2. Code Veronica on the Dreamcast was fantastic. The movies, I have reviews of all of them. I really enjoy those movies. I fully acknowledge that they are not good movies, but they are a guilty pleasure. The second one I hate, and the last one I hate. Oh, I didn't mention Welcome to Raccoon City that came out last year. I did not like that movie. Nick had a different opinion of it than I did, but I did not like that movie.
Just a slightly different.
Yeah. I thoroughly disliked that movie. I thought it fumbled the ball in a lot of places. But I've been interested in this show when I heard about it. I thought it was a movie at first. I was going into it like excited. I was like, "Oh, I love Resident Evil. Let's see where they're going to go with it now that the movies aren't going on. So this is going to be the new live action thing." So we got this show, and like Nick said, we got Lance Reddick on. Some other, it's really just Lance Reddick. It's got all these other people.
Yeah.
They're fine, whatever. Lance Reddick, there's some money behind it. We get our first trailer, and but okay, so where does this Resident Evil take place? How does it start? What is our setup for this Resident Evil?
The series takes place like 10, 15 years after the destruction of Raccoon City. I think it's 10 or 15 years. It's in the future of Raccoon City, and they've decided for some reason to set up a new Raccoon City, and they've designed what's the name? Umbrella has decided that they're going to create this new thing called Joy, which is, imagine if you had ADHD and they give you a pill or whatever. It's that type of thing. And as you expect, things don't go right. And the main characters are, of course, Albert Wesker, who's the Lance Reddick character, and his 2 daughters. Go with that with what you will. And in the process of everything, they basically, something happens, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And in the future, chaos and problems and zombies.
By the way, it goes back and forth.
Yeah, it switches back and forth. Yeah,
between 2036 and 2024, I think, or 2022. It's a few years after now, or maybe it is now. I don't know. It's around nowadays.
All I know is it takes place after the destruction of Raccoon City, the nuclear bomb or whatever. So,
but it does. Half the show is in the future, like in 2036 after everything's gone to shit, and the other half is pre shit. Okay, so yeah, so we got this drug, like Nick said, joy. It's supposed to do just that. It's supposed to give you joy, which I don't feel as if was really explored enough. It's just kind of thrown out
No.
there. But that's what they're
Yeah.
working now.
It's
and
like,
now.
hey, here's a drug.
It's in
Yeah.
what is it? It's in South Africa. Is that where New Raccoon City is? Everybody there, it seems like, is a transplant from somewhere. It's like it's
Yeah.
only Umbrella people that and families that live in this community, this city of the future. It's like the Tesla city or something. But so we start out the show. I think the show started actually in 2036, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it starts in the future. Yeah, yeah.
And we're following this character played by Ella Balenska. I'm sorry if I'm. Her name is Jade. Jade, and Jade is like in. I think it's London is where she's at this point, and clearly everything's gone to shit. She's camped out in the middle of London, and she's doing tests on the. I don't know if they call them zombies, but they're fucking zombies. She's doing tests on them and the other things that have been affected by whatever's going on here. And yeah, that's it. That's really it. I mean, some shit goes down, and there's they had a big huge worm comes out and attacks her, and then some people, I don't know if they really kidnap her, but they take her to this post-apocalyptic fortress Thunderdome thing to I guess help. I don't know.
That
They
would have
just-
been more interesting.
Yeah, they picked her up because she was injured. She was beat the fuck
Yeah.
up by this big ass worm. Apparently, this virus, whatever is causing all this destruction and caused all this, it affects everything, which is that's in line with the canon. It mutates not just human beings but other things. It makes small things like this worm really big and really aggressive. That's what attacked her. She goes to this place somewhere, and it's surrounded by zombies. It's like this big compound, and we find out that she thinks that they're trying to help her, but no, she has a warrant on her, or she's wanted by Umbrella, and Umbrella is on their way. They called Umbrella after her. Oh no! But what we also find out is Jade's last name, Jade Wesker. So anybody who's interested in or in the know about Resident Evil knows that the Wesker name is, runs throughout. I don't know about the new games, but definitely all the older mainline Resident Evil games. Albert Wesker is like the big bad in all the games, or at least linked to the big bads. And in this show, Albert Wesker is played by the absolutely fantastic Lance Reddick. All of his parts so far, at least, take place in the 2022 side of things, in the past.
Yeah.
Where we see him, he works for Umbrella. He's a scientist, executive, I guess. We got him and his two daughters, Jade, but also another daughter, Billy, played by Sienna Agudon.
It looks like Billie Eilish, so we'll just call her Billie Eilish.
I said that as well. Her name is Billie, and she looks like Billie Eilish. But these are his two daughters, no mom. They just moved to New Raccoon City. The kids are going to high school, because they're teenagers. High school life and all that, so it's Resident Evil, the teenage years. And they're having some difficulties at school. And the first episode of this show, I remember when we finished watching, we watched it together, and when we finished watching it, I was like, well, it's a setup. I'm not going to call it bad, but it's let's see where it goes. I wasn't off put by it. I understand it's a show. There's a lot of things they have to get out there, that they have to put into the, they have to build this up. It was not at all the Resident Evil that we're used to. This is a whole new deal. This is not a remake. This is not pulling from the games or anything like that. This is a whole new thing. There's a few references here or there as the show goes on, but this is a whole new deal, so don't go into this thinking you're getting adaptations of any of the properties that came before it. At the end of the episode, I was like, okay, that's, let's see where it goes. I wasn't hating it. At the end of the episode, the girls break into the Umbrella Corporation thing because the Billy character thinks there's, animals being tested on there, and she's all like, PETA, and they go in there to release the animals. There's this box in this lab they get into, really easily, by the way, containing this fucking mutated dog. And I mean, even walking up to the box, if you couldn't see what was in it, it's just like going fucking crazy, and she decides that's the box she's going to open. Dog gets out, wreaks havoc. She gets bitten. Billy gets bitten. They get out. Nobody knows they were there. Albert figures out they were there, and he takes him in. But something was going on with him anyway, because he's always taking blood from them, like once a week or something like that. And we get the idea that there's something weird with them and how they were created and all that. And yeah, that's where the episode more or less ends. And at that point, I was kind of like, okay, let's see where it goes. Where did it go from there, Nick?
Literally nowhere. That's the best way I can put it. This was, if we're not gonna be around the bush, this is one of the laziest, boringest ass shows I've ever seen in my entire life.
Boring.
It literally goes nowhere.
Boring. What the fuck?
Bad.
I was so far. Now, like we said, we've only seen the first 5 episodes of an 8-episode show, but I don't see it getting any better. Nothing happens in the show. This is my critique of it. There are things that happen on screen in this show. Stuff is going on. There's explosions, there's gunshots, there's people running and ooh and ah and all that. But nothing is happening. Nothing of any consequence. I kept waiting for just something that pushed the story along, and it moves at a fucking snail's pace.
Yeah, it makes you feel like either this was rushed, they didn't know what they wanted,
Rushed
or they
is
don't
not
understand the concept.
That is not the word that
trying
comes
to
to
be nice.
mind, because it was so fucking slow.
This feels like they're trying to do Walking Dead in the Resident Evil universe, and they don't understand what makes Resident Evil good. Here, it's like, oh, we're going to throw some dogs that you've seen in the games or some other creatures you've seen in the games, but what it really is just a hackneyed bunch of people that you don't care about. And then you get into the stuff in the past deals with like high school drama bullshit, and it's like, I don't care about any of this. What I care about is what makes Resident Evil, especially 7 and 8, so great, is the story, the idea, the concept. What exactly is this world? Like Resident Evil 4, the story moved itself till you found out this is like I think Las Plagas and stuff like that, and you have this like underground cult. It just all worked. And here it's just like, oh, we're gonna throw zombies, which I keep complaining to you about this, and like I said, I think you agree, but there's no zombies in Resident Evil. Resident Evil's about mutated
infected
people.
Yeah,
they're infected people. There's no zombies. So that's a huge misunderstanding of what Resident Evil is. And bringing Lance Reddick into this and having him really do not much of anything except try to get his daughters to a certain point from here to here to here, watching his daughter get infected here, watching her take,
Was he doing that?
I don't know. Maybe
was he doing anything?
I want to say yes, but you're probably right. I don't know.
No, I mean, if you think he was, that's fine. But it was like they're always talking about doing something or something needs to happen, but they're never specific on what it is, and they never fucking do anything in the future or in the past. Because like I said, this is 2 stories going on at once. You've got the future story of Jade and her what she's trying to get home, by the way. Her family, her husband and daughter, I guess that's who they are, their partner, are in California, I think it was, and she's in London. All this shit happens, and that's all it is. That's her motive. She's just trying to get home. She does things to get there. I mean, that's it. That's all it fucking is there's nothing else. I wish I could point out more. There's one scene we'll talk about in a minute, an action scene, which we'll get into the action. And in the past, like Nick said, it's fucking Riverdale. I mean, it's fucking high school drama shit. A lot of it's like, oh, I'm not popular and people think I'm crazy, and oh, and I got in a fight, and oh, this boy, he's so cute, and let's go to a party. And I'm like, this isn't fucking Resident Evil. What the fuck are we watching? Once the girl gets bitten, once Billy gets bitten, it's like this big thing about, is she gonna turn? Is she not? She's getting aggressive. She's not. But it draws it the fuck out so long that you're just like, I don't really give a fuck if she does or not. I want her to turn so she'll eat all these fucking people in this town and just kill everybody. Can we please just move this fucking story along? But nothing. I mean, we get characters get introduced, but I don't give a fuck about them. I mean, we get like the executive from Umbrella and things like that, and it's just like, who cares?
I've ever seen in my entire life.
It was just so fucking boring, and some of the dialogue is just bad. That's the word. It's just fucking bad all around. And you've got boring and bad, and it's just like, this is just not good. And I'm that guy who likes the Resident Evil movies. I will give Resident Evil a whole lot of room, and I will give it a lot of faith. But this just wasn't it. It was, and not in my opinion, not so far, unless them last 3 episodes can really bring it around, which I don't see that happening. When things do happen, it's like nothing burger. It's nothing big. There's a point, I guess this is a spoiler. Nothing is worth spoiling in this show, by the way. But there's a point where in the future, Jade, she mentions once she thinks her sister is dead. We don't know how she died, but she thinks she's dead. And then at the end of the episode, and you know it from the beginning, because the episode begins, she like rolls out of this hole, and you've got this suited up character with all these other suited up Umbrella employees, and one of them takes their helmet off, and she's like, and then it goes into the past and shows other shit happen. And at the end of the episode, we see who's behind the mask, and it's her sister, and it's supposed to be like this big, oh my god moment, but it's not. I mean, it's not like they showed how she thought she died all that time ago, and then, oh no, she's alive. No, it just went back and showed them going to a fucking party and shit. You're just like, that was not, I'm not surprised that her sister's alive. I don't really give a fuck that her sister's alive. I wish she was dead. I wish you're all fucking dead. This show gave me a fucking headache. They either don't know the property, or they don't know what made the property special to people. Because it wasn't just, it's a game and you're playing it. And that's what seems like happened here. It's definitely not about all this bullshit that they're doing, this fucking high school drama and all that. And I don't have a problem with these characters being in high school and all that stuff happening and then flashing forward. The setup of the show, whatever, I'm fine with it. It's the absolute boring, non-interesting stuff. That's what I have a problem with. Resident Evil is exciting, yes. It has cool action and all that. But it's also about the intrigue and the convoluted as hell story, but convoluted in that juicy kind of Kojima kind of way, where it's like, this is convoluted, it's over the top, but it works. That's what people love about Resident Evil, and we just don't get that here. It's like they tried to make it more realistic-ish, kind of, sort of, in some ways, but they just made it bland. Kind of. I was more entertained, and I hate this pains me. It pains my fucking soul to say this. I was more entertained by Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City than this movie. That hurts. And I don't know if that was just because I knew Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City would end sooner, but at least stuff was happening. It didn't make a lot of sense, and it was fucking stupid stuff, but at least stuff was happening in that movie. In this, just nothing's happening. Just nothing. I will give the show that, I mean, it's not all bad. Well, there's a lot of bad. It's not all bad. There are some bad performances here, but I'd say the vast majority of the performances are just fine. They're not great. They're not. They're just. They're whatever. They're Resident Evil. If the show was entertaining and had some interesting stuff going on, I'd probably be okay with it. Yeah. But Lance Reddick, he's awesome, and as per usual, he is always the best part of whatever he's in, and he is definitely, by far, the best part of the show. Anytime he's on screen, he just made it all the more interesting. There was a scene. Earlier in the show, one of the Billy, I think it was, she gets in a fight. This girl beats the shit out of her in front of everybody. So then her sister, actually dressed up as in like a mascot outfit, beat the shit out of the girl in the bathroom. But everybody thinks it was her. It was Billy. So Billy goes to the principal's office with this girl who's had the shit beat out of her, and the girl's father's there, and Lance Reddick, Billy's father, shows up, and they're talking to the principal. The principal's like, oh, you can't do this, it's not okay, and all this. And the dad's all like, blah, 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 talking shit. Now, remember, everybody here works for Umbrella, except for the kids, obviously. But this man works for Umbrella. Lance Reddick works for Umbrella. Yeah. Lance Reddick is, higher up guy. He's the guy. So Albert Wesker. So he walks in, and he's like, this guy just keeps on talking shit, going off. And I did think that this was actually a really cool scene. It was really funny. It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but he just comes in and he's like, I'm sorry, what's your name? And he's like, what department do you work in? He's like, my name's Albert Wesker. And the guy's like, oh, fuck, I have fucked up now. And he's like,
it was a good part, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes on to just do the whole throwing his weight around thing, and he tells them about how, like, I'm going to, something like, we can continue down this road, and you can find yourself unemployed, and then also blackballed to where nobody will ever hire you again. Not Apple, not Google, not nobody. Find yourself out in the street Off of like he goes hard on the guy, and just Lance Reddick is so good at what he does. He fucking sells it. I love that scene, and I enjoyed everything that he was in, every other scene he was in. But every time he wasn't on screen, I was just wanting him to come back. Come back to me, Lance. Please come back, because that was just, man, this show was so disappointing. I really hope these last 3 episodes turn it around, but I don't see it coming. Lance Reddick was good, but also, I gotta say, there's money on screen here. I see the money. Yeah. The show looks good. It may not always be acted and executed well, but from a technical standpoint, it looks good. It's got, especially for a TV show, you can always critique special effects. The special effects are good. It doesn't look cheap in the slightest. It sells this world that they're setting up. And there's definitely money there. I think that they had everything they fucking needed. They got Resident Evil. They can do everything with it. They've got Lance Reddick, and they have lots of fucking money. How did you fuck this up? But the action scenes, I'm split on.
There's not enough action in this movie that makes me really remember action, but the stuff that's in here is not the worst thing I've ever seen. This isn't like Uwe Ball or Tomb Raider or anything like that, but there's action sequences here, but because of the stuff in the middle that's so boring, I actually can't remember half the action sequences. They're not really well put together.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the prison break stuff. Like I said, it's probably as bad as much as you did, but
we're gonna talk about that in a second.
Well, there's a sequence with the liquor, which I thought was pretty decent. I don't know if you like that, but
yeah, that was okay. Yeah,
that was fine. But like I said, it's not what I would call Oscar level quality material.
I think what all right. So what Nick is alluding that I didn't like the action, but now that I sit here and think about it a little bit more, I don't think there was a problem with the action. The action here is done well. It's mostly executed well. The thing with the liquors.
But can you remember half the action sequence? Be honest. Can you? I can't remember half the action because there's so much.
Oh no, I thought of the prison sequence, the sequence in the beginning of the show when she's running from the big worm, and then until you said the liquor thing, I was like, oh yeah, that happened. That's most of the show though. It's just so dull. It's all unmemorable. But the reason I think is not because of how it's executed. I keep saying the execution. I don't think it's the execution. I think it's because I did not give a fuck about anybody in this goddamn show to the point to where when action scenes happen and people are in danger, I just didn't give a fuck. I was like, whatever. I had no investment in it. I didn't care. And that's what makes good action scenes in game. That whole portal sequence in the end, the big battle and all that made sense because you cared about all those characters. There were stakes in this game. You were like, hell yeah, they've got to get him to get the stones, and you've got all these guys coming through, these characters you love and you care about. When they show up, people are losing their fucking minds. If you didn't know fuck anything about any of those people, if this is just Joe Blow coming through there, you didn't know any of these characters, you wouldn't have gave a fuck about all that action. It may have been choreographed well, it may have been well. You care about the stakes at hand. You care about the characters involved. And these, I did not give a fuck about.
There was stuff in that movie that's just like, holy crap, what's going on? Here it's just like, hey, we have some high school drama. This is Seventh Heaven or Dawson's Creek. I'm like, I don't care about any of this.
Yeah, that was what did it for me, because I think back to what action scenes I can remember. And you're right, that liquor scene, it was all well done. Once again, it all looked great. I thought it was well done. I just didn't care. Yeah. And that's what made it so forgettable, is not what was happening on screen, which is really sad because they had the money, they had the talent, technically, to do this, but the story is just not there. And it's to the point to where I just don't give a shit. There's nothing, and it's not so big and grand and amazing that you can even watch it on like a pure, just like action porn, kind of level. I mean, you have some movies or shows or scenes in movies that you can do that with. None of the action is like that, to where you're just like, it's so epic that holds it over. It's good. It's solid action. It's well done. But you don't give a shit about anybody involved, so it brings it down some notches. Now, I do want to talk about the prison scene that you referenced. There's a character that is introduced to us. This is, as far as my Resident Evil knowledge goes, this is a new to the franchise character. He's a agent of Umbrella, and this is in the future scenes, by the way, because ain't shit going on in the past. Not much going on in the future either, but in the future scenes, he is the guy who's kind of heading up this whole team that's trying to get Jade and chasing her all over these places as she tries to get home. I called him Oliver Platt Light because he looked like fucking Oliver Platt to me. Picture Oliver Platt. That's this guy. Not a small gentleman, not like morbidly obese, but he's not. I'm not gonna look at him and be like, that's the most athletic guy ever. We're gonna get to why that is in a minute. I didn't really care for his performance that much. I didn't hate it, but it was much like everybody else. I didn't give a shit. But he's a bad guy. He shows he's a bad guy. He's chasing her. So they both get captured. He captures her, and then they get captured by like this religious cult or something. They never really fully explain it. I don't know. This cult that's underground, and they take him down there, and
It could have been cool if they explained it, but no,
Yeah.
we have to have more high school bullshit.
yeah, they lock him up in these cages, and this cult has a bunch of zombies locked up as well, or in fact whatever they are. I don't really know what the fuck they were doing. They never really fully explained it. They just got a whole bunch of Walking Dead down there, and they're down there, and they're all in prison. So of course the infected zombies, whatever, they get out. Anarchy ensues, and Jade Wesker and this guy, I can't remember his character's name. It doesn't even say it on IMDb, but they get out as well. And all of a sudden, this guy who, I mean, he shot a few people here or there, but he's like a businessman. He suddenly becomes like fucking John Wick. Literally. I mean, it is ridiculous. The whole tone changes because the show has had a serious tone up to this point, but suddenly it gets this real jovial ha-ha kind of attitude. It even plays like some old rock music from like the 80s. He's going around like shooting stuff behind his back and like doing flips and doing all kinds of kung fu. It's like Kung Fu Panda come to life meets John Wick. It's fucking ridiculous. It just didn't fit. I could see the comedy of it. If I had been invested in the show up to that point and then this character just did this weird thing, I feel like it would have been really out of place, but maybe it would have been a bit funnier. But it just wasn't. It was just like, this is fucking stupid. It's all choreographed and shot and looks good, but it just wasn't exciting to me because it was just like, this is ridiculous. They're making a joke of it all, and I already don't give a shit. But I really don't give a shit now, and yeah, and it all culminates in that guy gets eaten. And she gets out and finds her sister. It was all a fucking waste. He's like this big bad badass, and then he just dies. I can't with the show.
It feels like a show with so much promise.
I was supremely disappointed, or have been so far, supremely disappointed with this show. I don't see it redeeming itself. They would have to pull something insane out of the bag and have an absolute total tonal change at this point for this show to come out and stick the landing. Because right now, there's no fucking landing. That's the thing. There's no point. There is an overarching story, but it's just so... Who gives a fuck? We still don't know exactly how the outbreak happens, which is fine. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. It's just you gotta give me something interesting. If you want to... It's like, you know, as much as I hate The Walking Dead now, the first season you had some interesting stuff lead up, and now you have a show that could be as interesting as The Walking Dead, and you don't do anything with it. Like, what the hell?
There's just nothing is happening in the future scenes. Nothing is happening in the past scenes. Just nothing's happening. The first episode was fine as far as a setup, but just nothing went anywhere from there. I truly feel like you could have taken everything we've seen in these 5 fucking episodes, condensed it down to literally 1, maybe 1.5 episodes, and it would have been better. It would have moved at a better pace. You could have, and you would not lose anything. You would gain something. You would not lose a fucking thing by condensing all of that. I'd like to see a fan supercut of this whole season put down to one-size movie. It might even be too much then, because there's just nothing here. There is literally nothing that happens from episode 1. Once she is bit by that dog, it's just them wondering, is she going to turn? What's happening? And then Jade in the future going through these really pointless, boring fucking, I guess, scenes trying to get home. But none of it, you don't learn anything about these people. Nothing is, their characters do not grow. Just nothing. It's just fucking disappointing, and it really pisses me off. I think I got testicular cancer from this fucking show.
I got COVID from the show.
Yeah, so this fucking show gave Nick COVID and me ball cancer. What the fuck? Fuck this show. We'll see if it sticks the landing. I just don't see it. I just do not see it happening. Unless something really big would have to happen. We'll see. Maybe it'll just turn it all around. But I highly fucking doubt that it will. So
Watch Welcome to Raccoon City. Don't listen to Jacob. You'll have a better time with your money.
You will. I'll give you that. You'll have a better time with Welcome to Raccoon City than this, but that's like saying you'll have a better time swimming in a pool of piss as opposed to rolling around a bed of shit. You know, I mean, it's It's not much. It's a better time, yeah, but it's still you're rolling around in piss. So. Okay, so yeah, that's Resident Evil, the Netflix series. Come on, man, just do fucking better. That sucks. Lance Reddick, great, loved him. Everything else, fuck off. Ugh.